Dylan's Story by Tara, Sam and Agnes.
Dylan is a physically late maturing male who used to excel in drama, maths and basketball in his earlier years of high school. His parents have high expectations, with hopes for him to receive a scholarship to a prestigious university in America. However, Dylan's peers are now taller and physically more mature than he is, resulting in Dylan not being picked for the representative basketball team, becoming withdrawn, performing badly at school, no longer associating with pro-sociable peers, and engaging in risky behaviour like smoking, skipping school, and stealing. Dylan's parents are concerned about Dylan's decline and current welfare. They are seeking advice for intervention. In order to provide appropriate SEL strategies for Dylan, it is important to first consider the influences that have led to his cognitive and behavioural changes. A biopsychosocial approach will provide a better understanding of the complex interrelatedness of Dylan's biological, psychological, and social factors. Biological factors. According to Weichold et al., Dylan's changes in behaviour and drop in grades are consistent with the findings for late maturing boys. They generally show an increase in depression, risky behaviour, and conflict with parents. The timing of puberty is dependent on a variety of factors, such as genetics, lifestyle, and cellular metabolic processes. Studies have shown that body fat also influences the initiation of puberty, as higher body fat percentage can lead to early maturation. This occurs as leptin, produced by fat cells, sends signals to the hypothalamus to increase the production of gonadotropin-releasing hormone. Since Dylan has an active lifestyle, his body fat percentage is quite low, and thus it is common for adolescents with a similar lifestyle to be late maturing. However, Dylan may be struggling to cope with his late maturation and inability to join the representative basketball team, as his brain is not yet fully developed. The development of the socio-emotional networks and cognitive control networks are more spread apart during the time between early puberty and full maturity. The cognitive control network in the frontal lobe is responsible for logical thinking and doesn't fully develop until around 25 years of age.
Steinberg argues that the motivated reasoning behind reward over risk is the idea of hot and cold cognition to explain the thought processes of adolescence. Hot cognition is the thoughts and behaviors led by an emotional state and high arousal contexts, whilst cold cognition is more likely to involve logical thinking and generally occurs in a low arousal environment. Thus, adolescents are more likely to take risks in the presence of their peers in favor of rewards. Dylan's brain is moving from an intense phase of overproduction to a phase of pruning and trimming. Functional magnetic resonance imaging methods have shown that synaptic pruning and trimming is rapid among adolescents of high intelligence like Dylan. Piaget's 4 stages of cognitive development explain Dylan is in the formal operation stage that occurs from 11 years and up, and is when synaptic pruning takes place. Researchers have referred to this period as use it or lose it, as synapses that are used will remain, whilst ones that are not will wither away. Maturation of the nervous system plays an integral role in cognitive development, as deep logical and critical thinking is reliant on sufficient development of the nervous system. The connections or synapses between the neurons occur within the brain's grey matter. Dylan is at an age where his brain will lose 7 to 10% of neuron cells from synaptic pruning, resulting in higher functioning brain processes. Myelination occurs simultaneously and acts to insulate cell axons. This increases the speed at which information travels from one nerve cell body to another. This means that Dylan's brain is deciding on what connections to keep and what ones to let go. Thus, myelination is making Dylan's brain's functions less flexible and changeable. As mentioned previously, the human brain does not reach full maturation until 25 years of age, with the frontal lobe being amongst the last parts of the brain to develop. Consequently, the cognitive control network of the brain, essential for logical thinking and reasoning, processes information slower than the socio-emotional control network. Thus, Dylan's ability to make decisions, anticipate risk, and solve complex problems is limited and social consequences often take priority. Furthermore, the formal operation stage of development is known to enhance egocentrism, heightening Dylan's self-awareness and making him more responsive to the developmental differences between himself and his peers.
According to Apter, Galatza, Halachimi, and Laren, the growth spurt and the appearance of secondary sexual characteristics are the hallmarks to adolescent physical development. Unfortunately for Dylan, he's a late maturing male who suffers from abnormalities of growth and/or sexual maturation, resulting in Dylan being less physical, possessing slower motor performance and coordination skills than his early maturing peers. It is since a male's physical strength and motor coordination play a pivotal role in social and self-acceptance. The theory is that those who have low self-esteem sometimes adopt deviant patterns of behaviour to reduce self-rejecting feelings. It is by making their behaviour match their low self-concept. It confirms their own rejection of themselves and consequently alienating themselves from post-sociable peers. Alternatively, Dylan may also be seeking an active genotype environment, a combination of seeking autonomy from parents and an inclination to seek out a social environment that he's drawn to. For example, Dylan is currently not doing well in school. He's under extreme pressure from his parents and he's late maturing. This provokes him to actively seek out groups that are similar to his situation. In a way, he's compensating for lack of autonomy of his life. For example, late maturing males' risk-taking behaviour does not occur in a social vacuum. According to Arnett, there are two streams of social influences associated with Dylan's behaviour. Peer influence, also known as peer effect, is the most strongest factor in predicting risky behaviour amongst adolescents. Experimental studies report that adolescents take more risk in the presence of peers than when they are alone or in the presence of adults. If you provide teenagers with hypothetical decision-making options, they'll exhibit a preference for dangerous and reckless options if they perceive some type of peer reward at stake. Given that we know risk-taking is largely a group-based phenomenon, it is important to examine the various pathways that peers may exert influence on adolescent risk-taking. Some researchers have distinguished between what have been termed active and passive pathways. Active pathways refer to overt forms of pressure, such as goading and urging a person to take risks, whilst passive pathways refers to the unspoken and implicit pressure to engage in risk-taking. The next social influence is family. Studies have shown that family influence as well as emotional autonomy from parents is foremost the dominant developmental context during the period of adolescence. Parents play a key role in determining adolescents' involvement in risky behaviour. This is despite peer pressure mounting in early adolescence. Parents' behaviour control and psychological control has predicted adolescents' susceptibility to peer pressure in both negative and positive directions. This means that parent-child relationships affect the development of emotional autonomy from parents, and this is by setting limits on behaviour and goals they need to adhere to. In other words, Dylan's parents have provided set demands, and that is to follow the structure or parameters set, which will ensure that he receives a scholarship to the most prestigious university in America. School connectedness. It has been proven that school connectedness will increase the sense of belonging in students and in turn increase the state of their mental health. It is also identified as contributing to improvements in academic engagement. Social and emotional learning should be integrated as a whole school approach, such as the Mind Matters program. It is an innovative national mental health program which provides a framework for growing a mentally healthy generation in Australian schools. Promoting mindfulness within the classroom. Social emotional learning approach can also be integrated within the classroom to promote classroom engagement. For example, an emotional quiz does not isolate students or single them out, allows Dylan to build emotional literacy to help manage emotions and feelings. Having emotional literacy reduces risk behaviour and can improve overall mental health. Also helps build mindfulness. Mindfulness helps improve well-being and allows Dylan to have a higher chance of viewing himself in a positive way. Also, peer mentoring can promote resilience. Having Dylan in a group with others will help guide him through tough times, discuss ways to deal with tough situations or overcome negative feelings.
Hello, my name is Tara. Throughout this unit, I have learned about the many contributing factors to adolescent behaviour and cognition and have essentially gained a greater understanding about the potential biological, psychological and social factors behind why teenagers may do what they do. First of all, the unit has made me conscious of the potential negative effects on students if cognitive load, redundancy, and split attention are present in my lessons. As students will be in the formal operation stage of brain development, it is essential to keep them engaged and challenged to reduce pruning and trimming of meaningful connections as the brain moves towards full development. I feel it is also essential to understand the cognition and biological influences on students' emotions and behaviours, as no two students are the same, and each carry their own experiences and thoughts that can be affected by their biological development. I now have more confidence when considering behaviour management strategies throughout my future lessons, as Steinberg's hot and cold cognition reveals students who may be acting up may be doing so because of the social setting and presence of peers, thus removing them from friends and allowing their cognitive state to settle from hot to cold cognition could be beneficial. Furthermore, the importance of building emotional language, growth mindset, and implementing socio-emotional learning strategies throughout my teaching pedagogy will further benefit my students' mental health and well-being by building their resilience and self-efficacy, which are skills that they can carry with them into their futures.
Throughout this unit, I've learned a great deal about adolescents, from what they are to how they function. I feel that one of the most important things I've learned is about Steinberg's ideas around hot and cold cognition. These ideas inform me that as an educator, I always need to be aware of the context I am working in to most effectively help my students, as the presence of peers can greatly affect how they will react. As well as this, I now know a lot more about early and late maturation and how it influences student behaviors. This unit has also helped me learn about how students learn. One of the key features I feel I've taken from this is that our brain is best at understanding visual information. When applying this to my KLA, my history, I understand that it is important to give my students visual stimulus to help them remember information, as it will most likely stick with them for a longer amount of time and have more effect. Furthermore, I also now understand a lot more about cognitive loads and why it is important for me to be careful about how I teach. I need to be careful that I don't cause things such as split attention or do something like redundancy, as this will negatively affect my students' learning and make me a poorer teacher. Another important thing this unit has taught me about is strategies for teaching social emotional learning. I've come to understand that SEL is an important thing to teach, as it will assist students and help them manage themselves during a period of storm and stress. It will also help them develop their well-being, which is a skill which is important not just during school, but after it as well.
Hello, I'm Agnes Levi, and this unit, Adolescents Teaching and Learning, was an insightful unit, and this unit has given me a deeper understanding as to how I will approach my role as a graduate teacher within the future. There was one particular lesson this semester that was quite interesting, and that was to help young people thrive. This basically means to help young people grow and flourish. And to do this, we need to stomp on ants, automatic negative thoughts, and to practice PETS, performance enhancing thoughts. I feel if I'm able to focus my energy on changing my mindset, I'm able to relay this to the students within my class. There was one particular moment within this lesson that I'll forever take to every lesson, and that was a quote by Han Ginot. And it quotes, "I believe I am the decisive element in the classroom. My personal approach will create the climate. My daily mood will make the weather. As a teacher, I possess tremendous power, and to make a child's life miserable or joyous." And this quote, I truly believe, would translate within the classroom. And if I carry this to every lesson, I believe I'm able to change young people's mindset and helping them thrive.